start that over. Today, we're going to talk about house hacking. House hacking is the process of hacking into somebody's security systems, into all of their smart homes, so that you can now control their lights. You can control their switches, their outlets, their thermostat. You're going to just completely hack their house and take control. I'm just kidding. That's not what house hacking is. Maybe it is, but it's not the house hacking that we're going to talk about today. Today, we're going to talk about the house hacking in the sense of how can you buy an investment property without having to put down the traditional, what I think now is 30% down payment. The last two investor deals that we did for renters, this is timely material. So, today is February 13th, 2024. If you're watching this recording later on down the road, this data and information can change at any time. The last two investment deals that we did for rental properties, our buyers had to put 30% down. We've seen them in the past where they only had to put 25% down. Maybe those programs still exist, but in either case, we're not going to worry about those types of programs because we're going to house hack, right? So the first thing, next slide, the first thing that people ask when I bring up, well, have you thought about house hacking, right? We do a buyer consultation, and they tell me that, they eventually want to get into investment real estate. Everybody kind of has that dream. Why should you be in investment real estate? Because it helps you to get out of the rat race. Number one, it's that nice passive income. Whether you work or not, that income's going to be coming in. So people ask me, well, how do I do this? And I always answer with, well, I'm glad you asked. And this is another reason why we're having this presentation today, so I can teach you the concepts, help you understand the process, and then we can discuss any challenges that may come along the way as well. This is a good video for real estate agents, investors, and consumer home buyers all alike, because this is going to be very informational on the process, how it works, and conversations that I think most of us on here are real estate agents. But it's going to be conversations that we can be having with our clients. And if you are a real estate agent and you don't own investment real estate, you might ask yourself, why don't I own investment real estate? And if it's the down payment that's stopping you or slowing you down, maybe there's something in here that can help you to take yourself to that next step and get yourself into investment real estate. So let's start with the concept. What is house hacking? Well, as it says here, house hacking is a great strategy to create passive income and or reduce your housing expense by turning your primary residence into an income-generating asset. There's a lot of big words in this phrase here. The most important ones you want to look at are passive income, reduce your housing expense, and income-generating asset. Passive income is exactly how it sounds. It's not active, it's passive. Which means, like I stated earlier, if you're not working tomorrow, well, you're still going to have the income today, right? You're still going to have the income tomorrow, right? Whether you work or not, this income is going to come in. These renters are going to pay their rent, right? This property is going to be producing income for you, whether you work or not. So that's passive, right? You don't have to you're not going into a 9-to-5 job to get this income, right? Reduce your housing expense. Some people live in their house hack home. We're going to go through some of those strategies down the road here. But even if it's not income producing, it can reduce your housing expense, or it could do both, right? And then it's going to turn that residence into an income generating asset. And we all know that we all want assets. We do not want liabilities. So let's talk about the process. What are we thinking about when we're thinking about a house hack home? Right? What are the things that we want to consider? The number one thing you want to do is consider your property. At this point, you're now buying this property for income and not appreciation, right? A lot of people, they get in the mindset that I'll buy it today and it's going to be worth more tomorrow, right? But in investment property, we're not looking at it in that way. We want to make money on day one. We want to offset as much of our housing expense possible on day one. Right? This property, it's purely an income consideration, Appreciation doesn't matter to us. Everything's going to appreciate over time, right? I mean, inflation and everything else going on, the need for housing, the growing population, the people migrating from different areas, whatever it is. If you're in the right area, the demand for housing is going to go up, right? The cliche saying, if, there's one thing that they're not making more of, and that's land, right? There's only so much of it on the face of this earth. And if you're in a desirable area like we are in Southeast Florida, you know that land definitely sells at a premium. So we're not looking at it for appreciation. How else are we looking at this, right? We're gonna when we're in our decision-making mode, we're gonna be making a logical decision versus emotional, right? If your home that you're buying, your dream home, your final home, the place where you're gonna be, forever, that's gonna be your emotional home, right? That's the home that you want to love. The house with the bowling alley and the tennis court. That's you walk out your back door and your feet step into the sand on the beach, right? 9-car garage for all of your cars, right? You want to love that home, right? You're marrying that home. That's your home. That's your forever place. That's where you want to be. You need to love that one, but not this one. This is logical, right? So what is logical, right? The logical decision is to understand that this is not your dream home, right? It's an investment property. So we're going to look at this one like a CPA would look at this property. Next slide. We're not going to look at this one like a bartender would look at it trying to play matchmaker, right? This is a CPA point of view. Income and expense, asset, liability. So it needs to be logical. When you're looking at these properties, I mean, obviously there's going to be, you want to be in a certain area. Maybe you want to be so close to, to work, so close to your family's home, all of that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, the main thing that matters is, does this thing make money for you? Right? Is this, so, we're looking at what the rents are going to go for, right? What your projected gross income on that'll be. And at the end of the day, what are your net dollars at the end? Does this one make logical sense, right? Does this one make me money or at least save me money? And if it doesn't, no matter how much you love that house, it could be the best looking home that you looked at, you're going to walk away from it because it doesn't make logical sense. And we're not making emotional decisions today, right? Second thing you're going to do, we have a lender on here right now, Anna Horick. You're going to call Anna, right? You're going to call Anna, and you're going to begin to go through your financial assessment, right? She's going to look at your income. She's going to look at your debt, look at your credit score, right? And look at your savings. How much money do you have in the bank? What are your assets? What do you own, right? You need to call a lender. Unless you can pay cash for this property, then absolutely you're going to have a lender. That's really probably the first thing you should be doing, right? How much can I actually qualify for? Because you shouldn't be looking at homes until you know what you qualify for, right? If you're not sure, you can always go online. You can find a mortgage calculator. The one on our website, www.mymxrealty.com, will not only help you figure out, it's going to help you figure out how much home you can afford. You're going to put in your information. You don't have to share. We don't see any of this, right? But you're going to put in down below here. You'll be able to put in your income, debt, all of those things. We don't collect any of your information, your name, your address, email. None of that goes in here. You can put in whatever numbers you want, right? But it's going to tell you, number one, how much of a mortgage can you afford? And then once you get that, you're going to get your purchase information, and it's going to tell you how much that home that you can afford is going to cost you. So you can run some different scenarios and say, well, you know what? Even though my purchase price is $250,000, I put a down payment of $8,750, right? That's going to give me a monthly mortgage payment of, I don't know what it is, because she would have to scroll down more. Maybe you say, you know what? For rent, because I'm now making a logical decision, right? I'm making this logical decision. The rents don't make sense if I purchase this property at this amount, right? So you're going to want to figure that out, right? So what's so great about you know, uh, house hack homes, right? And it's in your next slide. Um, we should have edited this slide, but that's okay. Because the next thing, once you have an idea, you speak to your lender, you send everything there. You're going to do number 3. Oh, it is updated. Okay, awesome. You're going to secure your financing. This is where house hack homes bring their value to you. We all know the term, a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, right? What does that mean? When you're buying a home, it costs an extremely large amount of money, right? Regardless of what it is, closing costs, down payment, prepaids, all of that stuff, it all adds up and it costs a lot of money. You could be buying your own home, 3%, of a $500,000 home, plus your closing costs, plus prepaids, is a lot of money. But it's better than having to put 30% down, right? So a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush. We're trying to keep cash in our pocket. No matter what type of property you're buying, whether it's your primary or whether it's an investment, whether it's house hack or anything in between or anything on either side of that, if you have to liquidate all of your money to buy a property, you might not be ready to buy a property, right? But when you can put as low as 3% down in a conventional mortgage, right, 3.5% for FHA, maybe 5% conventional, right, depending on how you qualify. When you can put that low money down, 3% compared to 25%, you're keeping 22% in your pocket. Maybe you don't have that extra 22%, but whatever you do have, you're going to keep it in your pocket, right? Why? Why do we need to make sure that we don't liquidate our accounts prior to or when we purchase our first property, right? Why is it important to have money in your bank account at closing, right? Well, because of the next step, when you close your property and you stabilize it, right? So I don't know if this is a real term. It probably is. Maybe I heard it somewhere. Maybe I read it somewhere. I don't know where I heard it, where I learned it. But it's something that you will naturally understand when you have investment property or when you manage investment property, right? You need to stabilize that property. What does stabilize that property mean? Well, you're going to learn your new home's personality. We always recommend home inspections. We always get home inspections on properties that we buy. But for some reason, something always comes up, 2 months, 3 months, 2 days, 3 days down the road, and you're like, wow, didn't see that coming, right? Oh, these cast iron pipes are in worse condition than we thought. Now they're leaking or they're backing up or there's a tree root or, whatever it is. And that could be a very, very, very expensive repair, right? Maybe you took the risk and you said, well, you know what? I think we can get by on these cast iron pipes. We're going to get a good price on this home, so we're going to go ahead and take that risk. Well, that home is going to show you its personality, right? And as you're learning that personality, the creaks and the groans and the moans and the backups and, the sparks and everything that this home does, right? You're stabilizing. You're knocking down these obstacles, right? You're getting everything out of the way that's going to come up with this house, whether it takes you 6 weeks, 6 months. Hopefully it doesn't take you 6 years, but maybe it takes you a year. Maybe it takes a little bit longer. You're going to have knocked down all of these things. You need money for these, right? Because you don't want to finance on top of your financing on top of your financing. You don't want to rake up credit card bills on your first property if you can help it, right? So you need to keep some money in your bank while you learn your new home's personality and while you're stabilizing. And this applies to every home all the time, right? There's always something that we didn't consider. There's always something that we missed. Your home, the property taxes are going to adjust up. So your lender is going to be collecting so much in escrow for your property taxes, and then next year your mortgage is probably going to go up because your property taxes will adjust up. Maybe you get ahead of that and you pay a little bit extra into your escrow for the next 12 months so it doesn't happen. Most people don't, and they're like, holy cow, why'd my mortgage go up $600? They didn't plan for it, right? Your new home's personality. Once you learn your home's personality and you realize it's not as bad as you think it is, what do? Well, do it again, right? You do it again because you didn't fall in love with this home. This was not your emotional home. It doesn't have a bowling alley like you've always wanted, right? It doesn't have the Olympic-sized pool in the backyard that you've always wanted. not going to hold all of your cars that you're buying. I don't know why you have so many cars, but you do. Maybe you should sell some to buy your next home, but you're going to buy another home. Why? Because your first one is now producing income, or it's offset your housing expense so much that you're able to put away enough money, right? But you say, but how do I do this again? Well, I'm glad you asked again, right? So we're going to run through just a couple of different setups, a couple of different scenarios on how you're going to get into your first property, or, you know, if this is not your first, how you maybe get into your next one, right? These are very simple numbers. I don't have real world examples that we can go over here. But these are just very simple numbers just so that we can understand the concepts, right? So house hack setup number one, you bought a duplex, right? And your monthly mortgage on this duplex is $3,000 a month. Each unit, so you have 2 units, each unit is going to bring in or can collect $2,000 per month in rent, right? Well, it's a house hack. So you live on one side. You live on one side, and your neighbor is your tenant. They're your resident, right? You're renting out the other side. So your mortgage is $3,000 a month. You rent out the other side. You make $2,000 a month. Your living expense is $1,000 a month, right? Because you're collecting $2,000. Your neighbor tenant is paying $2,000 a month towards your mortgage for you. So you're going to subsidize the difference. You're going to pay the other $1,000 to the bank, right? And you're going to save $1,000 a month, right? Or you're living in a $2,000 a month apartment, condo, duplex, whatever, duplex. You're living in a $2,000 a month duplex for $1,000 a month. You don't go and, on a vacation. You don't buy another car. You don't do any of that. What do? You bank those savings, right? So in 6 months, you should have $6,000. 9 months, you should have 9,000, actually plus interest, right? Whatever it is. Put that money into a high yield savings account. There's a lot of high yield savings accounts out there right now. They're paying you at least 4%. There's no reason that you don't get 4% on your money annually for any of these scenarios, right? Not a lot, but the eighth wonder of the world is compound interest. So when you make 44%, your annual 4% every month. Next month, that 4% is a little bit higher because you added that 4% from the previous month. Compound interest. It's going to work for you, or it's going to work against you. In this case, let it work for you, right? So that's example number one. Bank your savings because you're living there, right? Number two, when you move out, and you will move out. It doesn't matter where you move, right? It doesn't matter what you do, but you will move out. So now when you move out, you've got 2 units at $2,000 each, because that duplex is now empty. You can rent out both. So you're making $4,000 per month. Your mortgage is still $3,000 a month. You are now earning passive income of $1,000 a month. Now these are gross numbers. You probably have some maintenance. You probably have some other expenses that are going to come off of it. But your gross passive income is $1,000 a month. Right now, you're renting another place. Why would you rent another place when you own this place? Right? It's so that you can now have the passive income $1,000 a month. It's going to net out the same, right? Maybe you rent another place for $1,500 a month. Maybe you rent another place for $2,500 a month, right? It doesn't matter what it is. All that matters is that you're renting another place, because until you can show the income on this property, it's going to be difficult to get into your next property, right? So maybe you lived in your house hack home for 9 months, 12 months, however long you need to do it, right? And then you decide, okay, I'm getting ready to be able to go buy another property. Let me go into this second property. Now I can show that I'm bringing in $1,000 a month passive income, and this is no longer my primary residence, my secondary, right? So you're renting another place. Same thing, right? This $1,000 a month in passive income that you're collecting is going to offset your rent, whatever it is, in this case, $2,000. And now you're netting $1,000 a month for your house payment or for your housing expense, right? So what do? You continue to bank the difference, right? Again, this is not, this is long-term thinking. right? You're going to make some sacrifices in the short term. So then in the long term, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, because you did this, you're going to own at least one, maybe two, maybe 10 investment properties, right? And they did appreciate, because even though we're not buying homes for appreciation, real estate's naturally going to appreciate over time. Even in the 07, 08 era, where home prices just completely crashed and they flatlined, homes are now selling for higher prices than then. So, historically, homes continue to go up, right? They're as expensive as they've ever been, right? What about our next scenario? This is my favorite one, kind of, if your mom and dad love you. You can move back in with mom and dad. They always love that. That's always their favorite thing. Move back in with mom and dad. Why would you move back in with mom and dad? Now you're moving backwards, right? Well, because if you move back in with mom and dad, if you own 2 units, if you own a duplex with 2 units, you bring in $4,000 a month, your mortgage is $3,000 a month. That gives you a net income of $1,000 a month. That's pure income. You don't have, well, I don't know, maybe mom and dad charge you rent, maybe they make you pay some utilities, maybe you got to buy some groceries. I don't know, whatever you have to do, right? Work it out with mom and dad. Bank the difference, bank the income, right? This is the best scenario, right? Maybe you move in with aunt and uncle, grandma, I don't know, whatever it is, right? They probably love you. You could probably move. There's somebody that'll let you move in with them, I think, right? And if not, well, then this isn't the scenario for you, but this is a great scenario, because this is how you're going to keep your housing expense extremely, extremely low, is by doing this, right? So this is my favorite one, but it's not always, doesn't always work for everybody. You can always do the previous step. You can go rent, right? But if you can, this step will probably get you there the fastest, is if you go back and you go live with mom and dad. So what if you already own a home, right? We've got a few scenarios for if you own a home already. You're not out of luck, right? Number one, first thing you can do, well, number one, you have to learn to let it go. Won't be your home anymore, unless you want it to be, right? These are just some ideas. But you can rent out your home. You can rent another home, right? Same thing as one of the previous examples. You're going to rent yours out. Your home is now your house hack home. If you bought it 4 or 5 years ago or longer, maybe even just 3 years ago, doesn't matter what house you bought, even if you bought it emotionally and not logically, it's likely that the rent will earn you more than what your mortgage is anyway. It's likely that you could have passive income on your home, right? You have to let it go. It's going to go from a home to a property. You no longer love it. It's not logical, right? Because you're going to walk in after a renter and they're not going to take care of it as good as you are, right? It's going to happen. Just like you lend your car to your kids and, they backed it into a light post in the parking lot, right? Renters are going to do those things, but it's making you positive income. And at the end, your cash flow should exceed your expenses, including maintenance and repairs, right? Then you're going to rent another house. Go rent another one. Why? Because again, the home that you live in is not an asset, it's a liability. It doesn't make you money, it loses you money. Every month, money leaves your bank account to make your mortgage. When you rent out your home, it now becomes an asset. I know you're renting something and you're paying the other person's mortgage, but you can rent strategically. You can rent something that costs less than your monthly mortgage, right? 3, save it. 4, purchase another house hack home, and then repeat it, right? Simple enough. What's another option? What else can you do? Well, the simple one is sell your house. Again, I think if you bought your house in the past 3 years or longer, you're going to have a lot of equity in your house. You can always sell it, right? Cash out, bank the money, do whatever you want to do, right? Purchase a house hack home. Now you can have to go back to that duplex scenario, and your bank account is probably a lot healthier, right? Or you could put more money down in this case. If you sell your house and you walk away with, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, you could always put that money right back into something, right? Maybe you buy 2 properties. I don't necessarily recommend buying more than one investment property at a time, because there is that stabilization period that we talked about earlier, but it's a possibility, right? It just depends on your stomach for risk. If you're more risk averse, it's not going to be for you. But if you're young and risk doesn't bother you, then take some risks, right? But still make them calculated. You're not gonna jump in, both feet first, and you don't even see what's below you. Because if you're not looking before you jump, you may be jumping into danger. So, you're still going to be aware of the risk that you're taking, or your customer will be aware of the risk that you're taking. Purchase a house hack home, save your money again, right? You're still not spending money because we're thinking about the long-term future. Purchase, repeat, right? This is a short list of scenarios that we have that we can go over. It really is, the possibilities are endless, right? There really could be unlimited number of scenarios that we can do for people. Everybody is in a different situation. Everybody is in a different place. This is something that when we're talking about house hacking, we do want to be speaking with an agent, but we also want to work with the lender, because the thing that we need to avoid is mortgage fraud, right? We're not buying a home. We're not trying to deceive the mortgage companies, right? What we're doing is we're using a loophole that what we know is residential real estate up to 4 units. So single family, condo, townhouse, villa, duplex, triplex, fourplex. Those are all residential real estate. And you can buy those properties just like residential real estate for a lower down payment. And you can rent out the additional units in a duplex, triplex, fourplex. You can rent out the additional units and generate passive income on those. And it's totally legal. Now, if you tell the bank that you're going to live in the property and you don't live in the property and you never intended to live in the property, that might be mortgage fraud, right? Talk to your lender about that. Make sure that your lender is fully aware of everything that's going on. Sometimes people buy a house and their circumstances change. We've had customers that have bought houses, and next thing you know, their job transferred them to another area and they got stuck with this house. Right now they have to make a decision. They're going to rent it or sell it. Right? That's not mortgage fraud. That's a change in life circumstances. Lenders understand that. Right? But if you are intentionally giving false information, or your customers intentionally giving false information, that's a red flag. That's a no-no. We don't want to do that. Right? So this is something where we need to make sure that, we're speaking with a lender, and that we're, just making sure that everything we do is entirely legal. At this company, we emphasize everything we do is legal, ethical, moral. We only do good deals. We only do things the right way. So, final things to remember when you're house hacking: always bank the difference for your next down payment. Right? Your assets should buy more assets. Use your income from your asset to buy another asset. Don't take your income from an asset and put it into a liability. If you've got excessive cash, then yeah, okay, if you want, go have fun. Right? Enjoy your life. We only get one. You should enjoy your life. Right? Do with your money what you want to do with it. But if you're just beginning this process and you want to grow it, you want to move forward, then bank the difference. Make sure you're keeping money in the bank. And the other thing is, your primary home is not an asset. People think that it's an asset, right? But it's not, because an asset generates income. A liability takes income. So your primary home is not an asset, it's a liability, right? When you look at your net worth, right, because it's income minus expenses, right, it's probably a liability. Now, if you have a free and clear house, right, maybe that increases your net worth, because now you have that as it's an asset in that sense, right? I own a $500,000 house. I have zero mortgage, so my net worth is up by $500,000, but it still doesn't produce you income, right? A house hack home should either make it less of a liability, or it should make it a complete asset, right? And it's an income producing property, right? So just keep that in mind. And then you ask, well, why would I do this, right? Well, it's to increase your net worth, and more importantly, it's to acquire generational wealth, right? I know that there's a lot of people that, the number one road to wealth is real estate. Most new millionaires achieve that status through real estate, right? How do you get, what is wealth, right? Rich is just having a lot of money in the bank. Wealthy is maybe having a lot of money in the bank, but also generating a lot of money on a regular basis, right? Generating more income than you have for expenses on a regular basis, right? So residential real estate, or commercial if you want to do commercial, but real estate is going to be the fastest and easiest road to become wealthy. It's a tangible asset, which means you can touch it, you can feel it, you can see it, you can use it, you can destroy it, you can do whatever you want with it. You can pass it down to the next generation. It's something that you can build up, and you can bring your children into it, or your nieces and nephews, or whoever you want to bring into it. Your best friends, friends can invest together. You can leave it to your friends, you can leave it to your family, right? And it's wealth that will always be there, right? If you start it, your children can continue it, their children can continue it, and it can change the legacy of your family forever. It can change everything. One common concern, I won't spend a lot of time on this, is, what if I'm worried about property management? I don't want to manage real estate. That's fine. We have a solution for that, because I also own a property management company, right? I could manage it for you, my company, we can manage it, right? Or because you're on this call with me, or you're likely an agent or a friend, you could always call me, and I'll be happy to tell you everything that I know about property management. Our property management company has 0 evictions, and 100% rent collection. I can't think of any evictions that we've done, and I can't think of when we haven't collected rent. So it's a science. Property management is a science, and I'll teach you the formulas. If you want to manage your own, call me. I'll be happy to help you. I'll be happy to walk you through the steps on, everything from tenant acquisition to, what do you do if your tenants are late, right? How do you maintain the property? How do you do forced appreciation? How do we actually appreciate this property, right? What repairs or what upgrades would you want to do to a rental property, right? We could talk about it all. So, do we have any more slides, Irene? Nope. Question and answer time. So this one I ended extremely early, guys. Irene, we can go ahead and stop this one. Does anybody have any questions about how